I want to start doing more book reviews on this show, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how you all want me to do it. In the past, I've announced titles ahead of time to give people a chance to read them and get ready for discussion about them, send in questions, and I actually didn't expect to be talking about this one on the show because it just looked like a little bit of fun, and I really want to talk about it. So let me know how you would like to do book reviews in future on Project Shadow. But as for today, we will be talking about Andrea Vernon and the Corporation for Ultrahuman Protection. Because it's a wild ride.
Can you hear me? I have something to say.
Hello everyone, how are you doing today? My name's Charlie. You might know me better as sci-fi fantasy writer C.E. Dorset. And today, yes, we're going to be talking about Andrea Vernon and the Corporation for Ultrahuman Protection. Because we recently went through this book and I really liked it. It's by Alexander C. Kane, and we did the audiobook, which is why we ended up doing it, which is read by Bonnie Turpin. And read is performed by, it brought to life by Bonnie Turpin, who is phenomenal. So, as always with reviews on this show, we are going to be discussing the book without spoilers as much as possible, and then going into spoilers for a portion of the review. Now, like I said, I am not 100% sure how you would like to do this in future. Please do let me know. I will say that this is the first book in the Andrea Vernon series. The second book is already out, Andrea Vernon and the Superhero Industrial Complex, which we are planning on reading. Well, technically listening to, because Bonnie Turpin is amazing. So if you find this interesting and you read this book, you might want to read the second one too, because I will eventually probably be talking about it on this show in the future. I don't like schedule. See, this is the problem. I'm not a big fan of scheduling because there's actually a lot of books that I'm trying to read right now. So I'm not 100% sure when I'm going to get around to it, but I will definitely get around to it. All right. That's a lot of preamble. I'm sorry. So Andrea Vernon and the Corporation for Ultrahuman Protection is a very different kind of story. It's, what was the name of that show? Was it like Supers or something? It was on TV for like a brief period of time, which was all the people that worked in the corporation that ran the superheroes. And it was run by Bruce Wayne's cousin, who had an inferiority complex. Yeah, it was an interesting show. I think it was called Superpowered, I think. This is kind of like that, except for the way that could or should have been. Andrea Vernon is the personal assistant of Miss O, and Miss O is the office manager for the Corporation for Ultrahuman Protection, CUP. CUP is a private firm that employs superheroes for the protection of various cities and locales, because the government, in its infinite wisdom, has decided to privatize superheroing. This is the premise of the book, and it is so delightfully entertaining. And I don't live in New York, and I haven't been to New York City in a very long time, but I've heard from quite a few people that its depiction of New York is fairly good for the name drops and whatnot in it. I do like the flavor that it gives. Now, the biggest thing about this book that attracted me to it is as you know, I'm kind of in this infinite quest right now for bizarre silliness, and this looked just silly to me. And it was, if I'm to be quite honest, the free selection from the Audible Originals. Because we are Audible members, we get to pick 2 free books every month. This was on the list of free books, and I thought it looked funny and got it. And I'm so glad that I did, because honestly, I probably would not have listened to it otherwise, and that's a flaw in me. One, I don't think the back matter is particularly well written for this, if I may quote the site. Think superheroes are tough? Try having one for a boss or coworker. I'm going to stop there. Yeah, I see what they're trying to do, but it doesn't excite me. It doesn't really give me a sense of what's going on here. Especially the whole portion about her juggling a fledgling romance with a giant lumberjack. Yes, the big axe is technically a giant lumberjack, but the big axe is so much more. It's kind of like golden space puppy. I mean, it's just, there's so much more in this book. I think they should have tried to make the back cover funny if possible, to hint at the sheer amount of humor. I have not laughed this hard reading a book in quite some time. The characters are hilarious. Rabbi Diamond is an interesting character in his own right. I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to try not to just keep breaking up laughing while talking about this book, because there's so many things that were just too hilariously funny. But Professor Well Actually may be, for me, the runaway star of this book. His relationship with Kayla, don't get me wrong, Andrea and the Big Axe and everything going on with them is entertaining, and I really liked it, and they were the right choice for the main story in the book. But oh my goodness, Professor Well Actually and Kayla, they steal the show for me in so many ways, and I enjoyed them very much. Professor Well Actually's superpower is that he cannot resist correcting people when they say something wrong. And so if you can phrase a statement just right, he will spontaneously know how to correct you. And yes, Professor Well Actually begins, all of his superpower uses begin with well actually, which causes his beard to start growing, because of course he has a beard, and he starts like hovering over the ground the more well actuallys he does. And I think it's because if I had a superpower, that would probably be it, because people get really annoyed with me because when I'm in a bad mood, I become Professor Well Actually. And I like seeing it as a superhero, a superpower, rather than a personal character flaw that I have to work very hard to control. But yeah, his relationship with Kayla is really interesting. So this book has a little bit of everything. Yes, there's superheroes and superheroics and a lot of politics and drama and romance and just humor, everything that you would want in this kind of a story. I don't know if it would translate to film in any way, shape, or form. I mean, Bonnie Turpin does such a good job bringing all of these characters to life. But I think what makes it funny is imagining things. Because, like, the glorious space puppy. The space puppy is funny because I don't see it, so I have to imagine it. And the argument over whether it's a space puppy, a space rat, or a space otter, I find really funny, because as they're arguing, I get to create this amalgam creature in my head that makes the joke really, really funny. And I don't know if it would have been humorous if I saw it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'd have to work really hard to create an image that could be seen in either one of those three ways and not definitively one or the other. So I don't know that this is a story that would work visually. And a lot of the gags, I don't know if they would work visually, but as an audio play performed beautifully by Bonnie Turpin, they do work well. And as something that you can just let your imagination run away with, it's perfect. It's perfection. So I highly recommend this book if you are not easily offended. And by that, I don't mean that there really aren't any major off-color jokes in here. There is some blue language, which I've come to expect in most adult novels nowadays. And it's definitely not a book that I would sit my children down to listen to. It's not that kind of a superhero story. There is sex in the book, as well as violence. So, you know, bear all that in mind. But I found it extremely entertaining, and I hope you will as well. Well, I don't want to get too much into spoilers on this book because there is a plot. There is a plot. But so much of it is like classic sitcom, but with superhero stuff that some of the things that I would probably want to talk about would ruin the joke or not make sense if you're not in on the joke. So bear all that in mind. Having said that, this is the portion of the show where you will be at risk of finding out spoilers about Andrea Vernon and the Corporation for Ultrahuman Protection. So if you have not read this book yet and you do not want to be spoiled about anything, go read it, or better yet, listen to it. Go listen to it on Audible. This is not a paid thingy. I do feel like I have to say that we got it for free as part of our membership that we pay for, but they are not sponsoring this in any way, shape, or form. It's just a very entertaining book. And if you sign up right now, it's one of the free books of the month. So you can get that in addition to whatever, if you're new. But yeah, spoilers will be incoming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have been warned, haven't you? Okay, so I think for me, the thing that makes this funny, and in a way that is just unreal for me, is how much I identify with Andrea. Not just because of the way she's written, but she reminds me of a younger version of me. Doesn't want to fall in love, doesn't want to be tied down by relationships, but doesn't mind the odd physical distraction for dopamine release. And ends up meeting somebody who is so not her type, so not the kind of person that she normally dates, that she knows is a bad idea. She knows, like, the moment she realizes, I'm starting to get a bit of a tingle for the big axe, she knows she shouldn't do it, but she does it anyway. And the way the relationship grows and develops is charming. I like how it becomes kind of an internal polyamory, in that she kind of has a thing for both the big axe and his alter ego, and she knows that they're the same person. And they agree that she basically gets to see both of them to spice her life up. I don't know why I find that so much fun, but it starts bringing up all kinds of questions that just make me laugh. Like, is that technically polyamory? Because they are technically the same person, though not exactly the same person because of the powers that the big axe gains when he becomes the big axe. Like, physically, they're very different people, even though they inhabit the same body. And at least what little personality we find out about, they do seem to have slightly different personalities, at least in that the big axe puts on this wonderful character that always refers to himself in the third person and is just hilarious. It brings up a lot of questions that I find really humorous to entertain. Miss O is an intriguing boss that I'm assuming we're going to find out more about in the future books. The corporation is run, the board of directors are telepaths who never meet with people in person, with the exception of Miss O, and as such, only converse with the employees through their dreams, which is hilarious. I like Andrea's interview where Miss O wants to see if the board are like her. So they basically go out, the board possess a caricature artist who talks to Andrea while simultaneously making a caricature of her and Miss O. And that actually has a wonderful payoff at the end of the book where Miss O actually hangs it up in her Spartan office. This Texan boss in these New York settings, surrounded by I don't know how else to say it other than Rainbow Coalition Super Friends group, with Mistress Fuente and just everybody that's there. That just, oh my goodness, for anybody who, this is an old reference. I don't know if anybody played or remembers the game Freedom Force. Came out a long, long time ago. That would have been probably 20 years ago, maybe. See, I was still living in Oakland when it came out. So yeah, that would have been before 2004. So it came out quite a while ago. The game is basically you get to play as Minuteman and a bunch of other superheroes, and they're very comedically over the top, as are all the scenarios in it. The superheroes in this book really remind me of that style of superhero. I mean, you could put this story in the 1960s Adam West Batman, and they would fit right in. Everyone is a high contrast, technicolor, over the top caricature of a human being or a superhero or an alien that is glorious. And the invasion that they have to fight off at the end has all of the elements of that kind of Mars Attacks hilarity that just makes the entire story work from beginning to end in a way that I really didn't expect it to. Like, I thought I might get a couple laughs out of it, but the fact that the humor really ties this whole thing together, from Andrea and her family, and the fact that you actually spend so little time with the superhero stuff, yet you feel like you got enough of it, is a just testament to how well structured this book is, because we do get to see various superheroes performing superheroically in various circumstances throughout the story of the book, as well as several supervillains and a couple of superheroes who do bad things because their corporation tells them to. And the fact that it works, but doesn't take over or dominate the storyline, and the vast majority of the storyline stays focused on just this personal assistant learning how her boss likes to have her coffee and exactly what to get for snacks in the snack room and how to do lunch properly, especially because she's contractually obligated to never ask questions. So she just has to roll with it. And there's this wonderful sequence in the book where she's trying to figure out the jargon, like what is a William, and the lengths that she has to go through to learn the inter-office jargon is precious and wonderful, and helped me fall in love with this book. Now, I know I said there were going to be spoilers. I haven't really spoiled too much because I'm really trying not to, because I don't know how many of you have read this book. It came out in 2017 originally. but it is thoroughly enjoyable. If you like superheroes at all and you want a different take on them, this is probably one of the best alternative takes on superheroes I've read since Brave Men Run, by Matthew Wayne Selznick. And it's a very different book to that. But we shall see what this series holds, because I'm excited for book 2, and I hope it's as good, if not better, and that there will be a book 3, and that this will be a series that will entertain for a very long time. So, yeah. That's my feelings about Andrea Vernon and the Corporation for Ultrahuman Protection. Cup. Yeah. If you have any questions, comments, or topics you'd like to hear discussed on the show, down in the show notes, you will find a link to the voice message system. Keep it short, keep it clean. I would love to hear from you on the show. If you'd rather hit me up on social media, I am CE Dorset on both Twitter and Instagram, and you can find links to everything that I do over at projectshadow.com, including the new podcast, Banned from Argo. You like Star Trek? I'm going to be taking Picard apart week by week on that show, and differently than I did on the reviews I did on this podcast. I did episode by episode on this podcast. I'm going character by character on that one, and I've had a really fun time recording those episodes, and I hope you like them. But definitely go check that out if you haven't already. If you have a buck you can pass my way, it really would mean a lot to me, and thank you to everybody who does that. In the show notes, you'll find a link to both listener support and my Patreon. Again, anything that you could do would be great, but I understand. I really do. If you don't have any money right now, or you don't feel like giving, that's perfectly all right. But if you know anybody that you think might like anything that I do on this show, please share it with them. That helps out more than you could possibly know. Yeah, that's about it. I have some weird kooky ideas to work on. Hopefully, maybe even get a little writing done. I think my brain has cleared up enough that I can get a little bit writing done thanks to this wonderful novel. Until next time, stay well, stay safe, and don't forget to have the fun. Bye.